Hello everyone! Today I'm inviting you to participate in the Dear Poet Project. And if you don't know what that is, it's through the Academy of American Poets. And every National Poetry Month, they ask poets to choose one of their poems, they record them reading it, and then they invite students to write letters to them about that poem. And some of those letters are published on the website, and sometimes the poets respond, so it's a really cool opportunity. If you don't know me, my name is Ms. Bassett. I work at Arlington High School in Arlington, Massachusetts. That's just outside of Boston. I teach sophomore English and a senior poetry class. I'm sharing with you one of my favorite poems from this year's selection. It's called Providence by Natasha Trethewey. And I first learned about Natasha Trethewey in a class I took in grad school called African American Poetry Since 1960. We actually read this collection here that the poem is from. And so it's from Native Guard, which came out in 2006. And it is a collection with many poems about the racial history of the South. So you can keep that in mind. Trethewey is from Mississippi. She was the Poet Laureate of the United States from 2012 to 2014, and the Poet Laureate of Mississippi from 2012 to 2016. And she was born in 1966, 3 years before Hurricane Camille hit, and that's what her poem is about. So I wanted to show you a few pictures here that illustrate the complete devastation of this hurricane. So on the left-hand side, you see this church before the hurricane, and on the right, you see the same area after the hurricane. There are so many pictures like that online. It's really difficult to look at. And this is also a picture of the actual eye of the hurricane. The hurricane was in 1969. This right here is just an image of Hurricane Katrina moving, but it hit a very similar area of the country, so I think that's helpful to know. And here's the poem, Providence by Natasha Trethewey. What's left is footage, the hours before Camille, 1969. Hurricane parties, palm trees leaning in the wind, fronds blown back, a woman's hair. Then after, the vacant lots, boats washed ashore, a swamp where graves had been. I recall how we huddled all night in our small house, moving between rooms, emptying pots filled with rain. The next day, our house, on its cinder blocks, seemed to float in the flooded yard. No foundation beneath us. Nothing I could see tying us to the land. In the water, our reflection trembled, disappeared when I bent to touch it. So I think this poem's really beautiful. It's about this horrific event, and it somehow makes me think about myself, my own experiences, even though I've never been through anything like this. And so the lines that really stand out to me are the final stanza here. Beneath us, nothing I could see tying us to the land. In the water, our reflection trembled, disappeared when I bent to touch it. There are so many interesting pauses here. She uses this image of a mirror or a reflection in the water, and her reflection disappears. So that makes me think, how has this experience changed her? How is she seeing herself now that she's been through this, even as a 3-year-old? And I really am interested in, why is there this long pause, this white space between us and to the land? Like, is that broken? There's nothing tying us. It's broken in that white space. There's also some white space before trembled and after disappeared. And the whole structure of the poem is really interesting to me. I think that's something that I always look at in poetry. Why does the poem or the poet choose to break lines where she does? To me, this it almost looks like waves or something. It recalls water, the whole structure of this poem, but I'd be interested to know what she was thinking when making those choices. I also am interested in this idea of like public versus private, what society remembers versus what she remembers. And so those are just a few things that I was thinking about with this poem. I encourage you to write to Natasha Trethewey, and do make sure you watch her video of herself reading the poem if you haven't yet. All right, thanks so much. Have a great day.